Hey guys, today I'll show you a demo for my Autothrottle plugin for an amazing Fokker F28 Fellowship by JustFlight. Now we are sitting next to runway 16 center here at Graz, Austria, and today we will have a short sightseeing tour around Graz. We will depart from runway 16 center, climb to about 10,000 feet, and then shoot an ALS approach for opposing runway 34 center. During this short flight, we'll look into the capabilities of the Autothrottle plugin as well as some of its limitations. Now let's hop inside, where it will be a little bit more quiet, turn on our landing lights and get going. Speaking of limitations, first of all, the Autothrottle plugin is not capable of being engaged at altitudes or rather ground heights below 50 feet. This is done first of all for the sake of some realism, but also because at these low altitudes, when approaching to landing, it is not uncommon to deploy speed brakes, and Autothrottle would then try to compensate for it by increasing the throttle output, which would be less than ideal. Now all our bugs are set for flaps 6 takeoff. V rotation is 137, V2 is 145 knots, and let's set 165 knots as our initial climb out speed. And that is not the best lineup, but we will take it. After departure, it will be immediate left-hand turn at 2200 feet with a smooth climb to 10,000 feet. We are all set to go, so let's roll.
Come through, please take your seats with you. Power set.
Brakes released. Check.
Rotate.
It's a bit windy here today.
Positive climb.
Gear up. And now we can indeed engage our autothrottle, just like this. And for the sake of convenience, let's turn on the autopilot. Initially it will go into roll pitch mode, and let's clean up and increase our speed to 190 knots. Also now we can engage beam mode, which will take care of our ILS guided departure, GPS guided departure. And now that our flaps are up, let's bug up to 230 knots. And landing lights can go off. And same applies for taxi lights. As we can see, the throttle is a little bit twitchy, and this is something that will be fixed in a future updates, but for now I wanted to get something out there and see if anyone basically wants to use it in the first place. Now we are getting towards our climb speed. Let's pitch down a little bit. and let's maintain a climb rate of about 1500 feet per minute. After that, let's indeed set climb thrust rating and see how we fare on the climb out. And as we can see, throttles are reducing once we are around our vertical speed target. And we are happily proceeding on our departure. Let's clean this up a little bit. And now that we are approaching our planned cruise altitude, let's talk about some of the limitations of our autothrottle. As we can see by this light, white illuminated marker beacon light, our autothrottle is currently engaged. But it is not uncommon to climb, or at least finish climb, in indicated airspeed mode, which I will engage right now. And as we can see immediately, the autothrottle disengages as soon as we engage speed hold autopilot vertical mode. Why is it done so? Well, essentially whenever you engage speed hold mode, autothrottle has no idea as to your intentions for climb or descent performance, and hence it cannot provide any meaningful throttle guidance at that point. That is why it disengages whenever we engage speed hold mode, both on climb and on descent. Now let's finish our climb at 10,000 feet and bug up to about 270 to 80 knots to make our cruise a little bit shorter. Then I will re-engage the autothrottle and talk to you when we are getting closer to our descent. And once again, our autothrottle is engaged with the target speed set to 270 knots. Now let's program our FMC a little bit, or rather our GPS a little bit, to prepare for a descent. And we are almost at the top of our descent, but as we can see, Autothrottle is maintaining 270 knots quite fine, though it is worth noting that it has some oscillations inherent to it, which is once again something I will look to fix and tune in further updates. Now let's set our glide slope interceptor altitude, which happens to be 3,500 feet, and initiate our descent. Usually I tend to start descent in indicated airspeed hold mode, which once again will disengage our autothrottle, like so. But once we have established more or less reasonable rate of descent, I tend to descend further in pitch hold mode, which I will now re-engage, like so. And with that done, we can once again re-engage our autothrottle guidance. I prefer the pitch mode for descent because it allows for greater flexibility in case of ATC restrictions for rate of descent, for ground speeds, and so on. Now that we are quite low, let's stop violating some of the regulations and reduce our speed to more reasonable 240 knots. And to make this happen faster, let's use a bit of speed brake as well. Now let's turn on back our landing lights. And slightly reduce the rate of our descent. And now that we are even more close to our destination, let's further reduce speed to 10 knots. And once again, let's help with speed brake just a tiny bit. Also, we can shallow out our descent. And this should do us nice. And we are about to capture our altitude, so let's once again shallow out the descent. And also we can bring speed down to 190 knots. to start with flaps and gear extension. Speed below 200, gear down.
Flaps 11.
And let's reduce speed to 180 knots. And extend flaps 11. Let's switch to heading mode to help us with the glide slope capture, or rather with localizer capture. And arm the beam mode and then the glide mode.
Course bar active.
As we are starting our descent onto final approach, let's set up missed approach altitude of 5,000 feet. And reduce speed further for our landing of 1. For now, let's make it 155 knots and extend flaps 24.
Flaps 25.
Also, let's arm the spoilers. And now we can comfortably extend flaps to full. At about 4 miles, we will start decelerating for a final approach speed. Just like so. And runway is inside, but let's let the automation do something, and we will disconnect the autopilot at about 500 feet AGL, and we will let autothrottle to automatically disconnect at 50 feet. And my aircraft, once again a little bit of crosswind here, but nothing we can't manage.
Minimums.
Continue.
Glide slow.
And autothrottle disconnected. extending the speed brake and into a nice landing. And that more or less wraps up what the Autothrottle plugin can do at this moment. I hope you enjoyed this short demonstration. Feel free to check it out and get from flightsim.to, and be sure that future updates will follow to iron out some kinks and problems or limitations that we have seen in today's video. Thank you and have a great day.